Welcome back to the Low Carb Hustle podcast. I'm so stoked today. Get to talk to my friend, Cary Jack, the founder of the Happy Hustle. Cary, how are you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I am feeling blessed, Nate. It is a beautiful day and I'm breathing.
That's all you can ask for, right? Like that's such a good perspective
Yeah.
considering like all the things that could be going on, right?
That's true. And it's something I've adopted because many people will say, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm busy. And it's like these core typical generic responses. And I urge everyone in our Happy Hustle Club community, as well as my employees, our team members, to pick something that is uplifting to respond to that question that they can identify with. And for the longest time, I've always said it's a beautiful day and I'm breathing, so I'm feeling grateful. And it's just, that's my mindset. So anyway,
I
that's
like
why.
that because it's reinforcing that attitude of gratitude. And the more you
Exactly.
say it, the more it becomes like part of your habitual state.
Exactly. It's
But
just
man,
the default.
for anybody who doesn't know you, is not familiar with Happy Hustle, can you just give us a little bit of background on who is the myth, the man, the legend, Cary Jack?
Well, yeah, great question. I mean, the Happy Hustle, first and foremost, people ask, what the heck is that? And our definition is the systematic harmonization of ambition and well-being, right? So we all want to go out there and create our dream reality. That's the ambition part. But what about being happy within the hustle, right? What about having well-being at the forefront throughout? That's really our whole ethos. And, that wasn't always the case for me. So I have always been an entrepreneur and an athlete, but I realized I was prioritizing, money and profit and success and ego and a lot of the status drivers that people deem important. Society oftentimes tells us are important. And it wasn't until I burnt out as a tech entrepreneur in New York City, grinding like a dog with my tech startup and really having great success, quote unquote, on paper. But then I realized this was just so unfulfilling, man. I was so burnt out. And I ended up saying no to a 7-figure VC funding deal and partnerships with Microsoft and IBM, and kind of just went on this journey of alignment, will you? And I moved to Bangkok, Thailand for about a year. And it was there where I figured out, how to put the happy in my own hustle, how to really, work and live in alignment. And that's where the Happy Hustle was born. And fast forward, we got a book, a podcast, courses, masterminds, and the rest is history, as they say.
Cool. And you got a cool offer on your book too. So if you want to check that out, I'll throw a link in the show notes to that. And I know we'll talk about that a bit more in the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But so I was looking through your press kit, kind of getting ready for our chat today. And in addition to having a lot of great hair throughout the years, I also saw that you were not only like a student athlete in college. What did you play, by the way?
Soccer and rugby.
Okay. All right, cool. But you're also you graduated as a trilingual college athlete, right? What language did you speak?
Portuguese and Spanish.
Okay. So you've always been about that hustle.
Yeah.
It sounds like the work ethic is tremendous.
Well, that I have to attribute to my father, actually. The blue collar grit, it was always, if you're going to achieve anything, you have to earn it. So that was our mindset.
All right. That's cool. And I think a lot of people can really resonate with that. We're living in a culture where things are so accessible. You can build businesses online. You can do your stuff virtually. You work from home. So it's not only is it like closer than it's ever been before, but it also can be a bit more elusive than it ever has been before. And you can really lose yourself and your health and your priorities in the process of trying to create these dreams and create this life. And so I was really excited to have you on because last year, my wife's cousin lost her father, and he is one of those guys who just an awesome dude. He, worked until he was 65, worked for the same company for like 40 years. And they always had this idea of like, okay, as soon as I retire, we're going to go to the Bahamas and we're going to do this big family trip. And they put it off. Retirement hits, freak accident, dies. And it just made me so sad because people put off the happy, in lieu of just embracing the hustle. And I don't think it has to be like one way. I think it can be a both and scenario. So would you talk a little bit about kind of your like enlightenment period in Bangkok and what you realized, kind of maybe how your priorities shifted during that time from being like a tech entrepreneur and startup and like working in New York with VC companies to like doing it differently?
Yeah, man. Well, I realized that I was so unfulfilled and just so burnt out. All I was doing was working, and studies show we spend over 81,000 hours of our lives working, which is the majority. And it also, there's a study that was recently published by Gallup's State of the Global Workplace that shows that 3 out of every 4 employees are said to be disengaged and unhappy with what they do for work. So you think about it, you spend most of your time working, but yet you're not happy. And sadly, entrepreneurs as well, 80% say they experience burnout or are on the brink of burnout, so it's like, this isn't something that, you know, is uncommon, right? This is oftentimes the uh, the latest epidemic that I think is really unnoticed. Oftentimes, I mean, maybe people out there can resonate now that we're bringing it up and talking about it. But a lot of people will just sacrifice their soul for a paycheck, and then hope at the end of their lives they can retire with some money in the bank, and then enjoy a couple of years of freedom, right? And so I knew I wanted to do it a
Freedom.
different
Yeah.
way. Yeah, quote unquote freedom. Um, but for me, it's all about 3 freedoms: creative, time, and financial freedom. And
Mm.
for me, when I reflect on that journey, in New York, I didn't have really any of it. You know, it was just grinding and sacrificing. So I knew I needed to make a pivot. And then when I went to Thailand, I just kind of realized, all right, and Thailand is known, by the way, as the land of the smiles. And I realized these people, a lot of them have like virtually nothing comparatively to, what I had or what a lot of Americans have. And they were so happy. And I was like, well, how could this happiness be without all the materialistic things or the status or the power or whatever else, that I thought you needed for happiness? So it sent me on this journey of like studying happiness, researching how to become happier, and then putting it into practice. And, that's what kind of started to shape the happy hustle framework.
How do you think that Americans perceive happiness relative to other parts of the world that you've visited? Obviously, you talked about Bangkok, but you speak Spanish and Portuguese, so I think that gives you a deeper insight to those cultures as well. What are we doing wrong, and what are other places doing right, or vice versa?
I think in America, I call it the more disease. We get infected with this more disease. We want more money, more followers, more clients, more stuff, more, all the things. And what happens is there's never the power of contentment at play. We don't allow ourselves to say, I have enough and I'm happy. It's because we're constantly moving the goalposts, especially high performers like people who listen to your show. I know that they want to achieve great things. And I get that. I also, desire to create my dream reality, have a massive impact, and, live this, epic life. But I realized that there is a point where it becomes toxic. This
Mhm.
hustle culture, this Gary V grind mentality, right? And he has since changed. I do want to give him credit, but he's definitely
Okay.
flipped his perspective. But for a long part, like he said, you could sacrifice sleep. You don't need to do anything but work, 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 work. And and it's like, I don't agree. I think a lot of people overseas have a more harmonious lifestyle, quote unquote, balance. And they really do prioritize their faith, their family, their fun, their friendships. And I think that's a better way to live, in my opinion.
So how do we stop ourselves before we really get super infected with the more disease? I think they say, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And I know that that's so easy with social media and Instagram and stuff. We're looking at our phones. I'm looking at you. You got an RV. I want an RV. Like it's it's so easy to see people's highlight reels and be like, I want that. How do
Yeah.
we stay grounded? You meant, I mean, like even just the way we started off the call, you mentioned kind of like keeping gratitude top of mind by having some of those responses just ready to roll. But like, how do we make sure that, like what's the litmus test for knowing like, hey, I'm close to burnout. I'm close to being kind of overly infected and infatuated with more. And what do we do about it?
Yeah. So Dan Sullivan, I don't know if you're familiar with him, strategic
Yeah.
coach, he talks
Love
about
Dan.
measuring yourself backwards against where you started in order to create constant gratitude and joy. Now, what most people do is they measure themselves forward against this ideal horizon that is ever changing. And I do believe it's that simple. If you literally look at Nate and like, Nate, man, remember when you weren't jacked and had a big audience and making money and had a family and you were just like on the hustle up? Because I remember when I had like virtually nothing, was waiting tables, wearing a banana suit at Smoothie King. Like, I'm like, oh, dude, we all have a humbling journey, or many of us, unless you're a trust fund baby, then, good for you. But probably not the most of people listening. And it's like, if you just look back and how far you came, you can find gratitude.
Mm, yeah. I mean, that's so wise right there. Just like shifting the perspective from like forward focus on an ideal that's not necessarily reasonable,
Yeah.
like it might not be in the cards that you have six Bugattis. I just, maybe
Yeah.
you get there, you don't even want it. Who knows?
Exactly.
But
And you and I both know super quote unquote successful people who have a ton of money in things, but yet they're so unhappy. They're literally
mm,
sacrificing everything for that lifestyle. And oftentimes, there's a great book called The Second Mountain. These people have to climb to the top of this first mountain to realize, well, that ain't the view I want. And oh, by the way, I'm alone and I forgot all my friends and family along the journey up. So then they have to go down and reclimb another mountain. And I just think if people just got really intentional with what does success even look like for them and really define it and then get crystal clarity on the target, then you could know, hey, you know what? Like maybe it isn't $1 million. Maybe I don't even need $1 million. Maybe I just need like to be making a couple hundred grand a year, and I'm like literally set. I got everything I need. I can take time off. It's like I just think people get so infatuated with the society's version of success and not really stop to think about what is their version.
I think a lot of times, even when you look at the gurus, the people who are preaching like the business advice or the relationship advice, don't even have the thing that they're necessarily selling. It's so easy to be fake. It's so easy to like Photoshop your abs on, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like, I think a lot of the people that we're looking up to and emulating aren't even the people that we're emulating. Like some people are like, I want to look like this person on the magazine cover. And I'm like, baby
Yeah.
girl, that person doesn't even look like that person.
Yeah. So true, dude. Yeah.
It's
That's
fake.
this.
It's super, super fake. So I feel like if when they like your level of success is defined by someone else's outward appearance, then you're already losing.
Yeah. Preach it, brother. Amen.
So like I know that one of the biggest things when I talk to, and I'm just going to hone in on men right here because I think this is something that men are super, super guilty of, is the idea that I'll do it later. I'll work on my family and my relationships later. Like when I get that, like that, finally they get that big paycheck, I'll work on my fitness later. I can sacrifice that. Like you were talking about earlier. What would you say to someone who's kind of in that mindset of like, I'll sacrifice my sleep, I'm not going to work out. I'm just going to eat fast food and just get this done so I can, have that business deal or make that amount of money. What would you say to that person?
I would say it's often not worth it. And I'll hit you with the cliche statement. You know, one of our concepts at the Happy Hustle is really finding joy in the journey. And I know it's cliche, but it's cliche for a reason because oftentimes that destination isn't really what's rewarding. It's the journey to get there. And I just think people put so much emphasis on this end destination, like you said, when I exit my company, when I, you know, get married or write my first book or whatever it is. But what about like the everyday reality on the way there? And dude, like life's not guaranteed. Like I could go tomorrow. No one knows. Maybe God knows, but regardless, the point is you got to treat every day. And again, I know it's cliche, but like it's your most precious commodity. Time is ticking away, and it's what you do with that time. And ultimately, I do think when people delay, their happiness, it's a recipe for unfulfillment.
Hmm. I heard someone say the other day, and I think I'm going to say this wrong, but they said like you you'll never get tonight again.
Mm.
And I just like I've thought like a lot of times, like especially with like, I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and stuff, and sometimes shit's hard.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah,
everyone's mad and no one wants to eat the food you made them.
yeah,
And you're like, okay, I'm just waiting for like the night to end. I'm waiting to put these kids to bed, but you never get tonight again. And I think that idea really resonates with me, especially in those moments as a parent where I'm like, can we just wrap it up tonight?
yeah, yeah.
So keeping that like top of mind, that like kind of memento mori, like stoic
Mm,
principle
yeah.
can be very
Hmm.
helpful. But also
Yeah.
like, okay, like going back to the health thing, like maybe like, I think sometimes people are like, I'm going to enjoy the journey and I'm going to drink beer and not work out. Working out's hard. You know, why would someone in that like position, if they're even like, if they're going that kind of that YOLO, tomorrow's not promised lifestyle, why should they work on their fitness? Why is that important?
Yeah. I mean, I think fitness and health is the cornerstone of, your ultimate happiness. And it really is where you derive your energy from, right? If you don't have the ability to, you know, produce energy as, you should naturally, um, you suffer in every other area of life. You can't be as productive with your career or with your business. You can't, show up for your family as you desire. It's definitely the cornerstone of every other pillar. And, you know, people always talk about all the things they want in life until they don't have their health, and then nothing else
Mm.
matters. Health is the number one thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like when you prioritize your fitness, like you said, it's kind of the cornerstone. You can actually get more done. You have more
Oh yeah.
focus. Like if you're just like not in the zone, your head's just kind of spinning and stuff. I think you can get 2 hours worth of work done in like 4.5 hours. You just constantly checking your phone on Instagram, looking at emails, being reactive,
Yeah.
versus having that like very focused. Here, I'm going to be very present for this event, and then I'm going to move on when it's done.
Yeah, man. That's
I,
well, one of our 10 alignments is optimized health. To your point, there's 10 different areas of being a happy hustler, and one of them is optimized health. And you know, we treat all of the alignments with equal importance, but focus on one at a time. That's literally one of our number one guiding principles. And I always tell all the happy hustlers out there, like the optimization of your health affects every other component of life. To your point.
Yeah, I think that's like I know obviously your relationships are play into your mood and your emotional like ability level and stuff, but I think that you just can't get past. You'll never be like a success completely if your health is gone. You'll just never feel that you got it.
So true,
And for me,
man.
a lot of it comes down to ability. Like,
Yeah.
cool having you got muscles, great. Like you're lean, you have awesome. But like, what's your ability level? We were my wife and I were in Ghana, Africa for our honeymoon,
Hmm.
and we were like at the base of this like this castle, and kind of like going up a tower. There was like 1,000 or so steps, and there was a family who just sat at the bottom, and the kids were on their phones playing games, and the mom and dad couldn't make it up, so they were just sitting while the whole tour group around them walked up. And it made me so sad
Yeah.
that, like, number one, that you don't have the ability to walk up some steps in a place that you're probably never ever going to get to again, and you just because you of the choices you've made leading up to that. And then
Yeah.
number two, this is the example you're setting for your kids. This is where you're showing them the standard is. And so I think that a lot of times, it's not even about our own personal fitness level. It's about the standards we're setting for the people in our community, the people around us, the people in our families. Because even if I don't want to do it, I know that they're watching, and I know that like, it's something that I want them to realize is an important aspect of life. And I can't just pay lip service to it.
Yeah, you got to be the example, man. And that's, you mentioned like functional fitness. That
Mhm.
is a priority in my life, not just, oh, I can, lift some heavy things. That doesn't really, impress me. What we had we do these Montana masterminds where we take high level entrepreneurs in the backcountry Montana wilderness for 5 days, and we hike up like 10, 12 miles deep into Alpine Lake. And one of the guys who came on the last trip was a bodybuilder, jacked dude. He was like diesel to 5'9", but like 280. Just, I was like, it's like a house. And he got so cramped up, like halfway up the trail, he could barely make it. He was screaming, yelling, pain. And I'm like looking at this like scrawny dude, who is also on the trip, entrepreneur, like he's just motoring right up. And I'm like, how, like, and it was such an eye-opening experience for the bodybuilder. He was like, dude, I got all these muscles and I can't even hike up this trail. And it's like, so he pivoted everything afterwards. But it's to your point, like functional fitness reigns supreme.
Yeah, just I think like for me, it's the word ability is so important when it comes to the fitness level.
Yeah.
So can you talk about your own fitness journey a little bit? I know you played collegiate soccer, and then like what happened when you were in New York working a ton for your tech startup? What changed in Thailand, and then where are you at right now?
I mean, so fitness and being an athlete has always been a part of my identity. I trained martial arts when I was a kid and still train, kung fu
What do you
and
train?
tai chi and
Okay.
qigong more so. I've trained jujitsu and Muay Thai and all sorts of stuff, but I didn't get into it like I did with the Eastern, practices more so. Um, Nonetheless, I do think having the athletic background has just helped carry me, because it doesn't matter, what you do when you go on the field, like the work shows,
Hmm.
if like there's no way to hide it. If you're not putting in the work, you have to be accountable for your performance. So I think there's a lot of truth to sports. So that was cool.
Mm.
I played, all the sports growing up as well, but I really stuck to soccer, got a scholarship. My goal was to play in like the MLS or abroad, and then also join the United States men's national team. That was like my goal, and I was training Olympic development program and ODP and IMG and all these um, you know high level teams. But I unfortunately I didn't stay healthy. I tore my ACL,
Oof.
broke my ankle, and those are two very tough injuries in soccer to come back from. So I never made it to where I wanted to. Played a little fourth division in Spain and a little bit in Brazil. And, it was fun, but it wasn't. I still play men's league with the guys, but just being able to be functionally fit and active, that's been my fitness journey. Also, I ran a biohacking company for about 3 years prior to the Happy Hustle, so I was deep in the biohacking game. I mean, we were doing ice baths before they were cool. We we had Wim Hof on the podcast before anyone knew who the heck Wim Hof was. Like my business partner was on the cutting edge. He was like patient number zero on a ton of anti-aging protocols, and um, was doing stem cells and all sorts of stuff. So that was interesting. I was very dialed in at that point. We were coaching Olympic gold medal athletes and Stanley Cup winners. Russell Brunson was a client. So I was like getting to see what the top 1% of people are doing, because we were building out their morning routine, night routine, supplement protocols, nutrition plans, exercise plans, but also, we'd look for the vitamin and mineral deficiencies. We'd look for the environmental genetic mismatches and then the toxins that were holding them back. So we had a whole proprietary assessment. So at that point, man, my fitness journey, I was like dialed in, like,
Hmm.
on a whole nother
Just
level.
surrounded by it.
Yeah, I had to be, because if I'm going to be the guy to instruct these dudes, like I can't be, a little bitch, right? I got to be, for lack
Yeah,
of a better term.
facts.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's go. So, but now, man, I'll be straight up with you. Like, I'm maintaining. I made a vow to myself to never not have a six pack, and to always be able to throw a high kick. So those two things still obviously are true, but I don't have that same time now with a baby, 7 month old, and business growing and priorities. So I get it in every day, but it's just not as where it used to be.
Gotcha. How is having a baby changed your outlook maybe on some of these principles you've held, or like some of the prescriptions you'd give to people who are the top 1% and looking to improve. Now that you have that, like a little bit more context, you've been through the sleepless nights and all that stuff. What's changed in your philosophy?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot more respect for mothers, especially breastfeeding mothers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what a freaking rock star they are. Shout out to all the moms out there for real. But I definitely also have a lot more empathy for parents in general, because it's like the most challenging thing I've ever done, hands down. So, yeah, I know you know what it is, but it's definitely been eye opening, and it really makes you prioritize your time when you are
Mm-hmm.
working. I like to focus on my MVTs, my most valuable tasks each day, and typically those um, turn out to be a key three. So just three things. If I do nothing else today, making sure that I accomplish those three things. Therefore, I have the day be a win. And then ultimate presence, man. It's such a constant practice, but like being present with your family and especially your little ones, and then also being patient. Those have been some of my mindset shifts.
I love the key three. We do in like the $1 Billion Body program. We talk about the three critical tasks. So
Yep.
write them down the night before, figure out what are your metrics for success the next day, and then execute.
Yep. You know what it
Yeah.
is.
So,
Yep.
yeah, but it's just like, it's again, like kind of what we're talking about, the priorities and like, what are your metrics for success in life? If you don't know them, if you don't written them down, then you are constantly going to be reactive and kind of be at someone else's mercy or using someone else's metrics for your own success, which is not a winning formula.
Preach it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea of like having those physical standards though too. I think that's a really cool thing. I don't think a lot of people have physical standards in the way like have a six pack, be able to do a high kick. A lot of people have financial standards or business standards or things like that, but they haven't pulled that into their health and their lifestyle that way.
Yeah.
But like, even go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, if you want one thing that I think has helped me accomplish those things, I don't necessarily talk about it that often, but this is, since we're talking about health, one of the things that I do is create triggers. And for example, whenever I shower or take a bath, um, I make it a point to typically max out either pull ups or push ups.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's like a trigger I haven't missed. And I'm usually naked doing, dong slapping push ups on the bathroom floor. And my wife walks in and there it goes again. Or just butt naked in the hallway, doing my pull ups. But like, it's like when I get naked, when the shower is either warming up or whatever, I'll just bang them out. And it's like, I haven't missed a shower and I don't even know, maybe a decade, like truly, like it's been so long. It's just my standard. I just know that's, even if it's like I'm exhausted, I just do as many as I feel like I can do at that moment. So that's
I
what I say.
love a
Do
trigger.
triggers. Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping you had a pull up bar installed in your shower. I thought that's a really cool way to double dip.
That would be cool. Maybe I'll get that done.
Install like the smoothie bar over here. So you're coming in, you get the nutrients, hitting your
Yeah.
pull
Yeah.
ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Clean
like
it
it.
off. I love that idea.
Yeah, man.
um, so like going back to what you were talking about with like the functional fitness and the bodybuilder, I thought like that was so interesting to me when you said that. Cause I've been training and doing like weightlifting
Mm.
for almost 20 years at this point. And then about 18 months ago, I started doing jujitsu.
Mm.
And it was amazing to me how little the physical like health, like the physical strength that I thought I had translated to something like that, something like actually athletic.
Yeah.
I was getting beat up by like women and children and, people who were way overweight. And like, I was like, for sure that like this guy, like I always remember we were in Canada with the family for the summer and like, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 6 or 8 months or whatever. And you ever had that experience where you look at another guy and you're like, I could take him.
Yeah.
So we're on the playground. My daughter's playing with this other girl and, as her dad is there. And I was like, you take that guy. 2 days later, I see him at an open mat in jiu-jitsu and the turns out I could not. The answer is no.
Dude,
But
that's
I feel
funny.
like sometimes you need that humbling experience to really kind of reassess like where you're at. And I think weightlifting is a great way to do that because like the weights don't lie. It's 100 pounds is always going to be 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the martial arts gives you a better barometer just
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what are you capable of, especially as like a man, as a dad, as a husband, as a protector.
Mm.
I don't think that there's much that you can do that's better for your brain
Yeah.
than some form of martial art.
Oh yeah, dude. I totally hear you. Yeah, jujitsu is super humbling. You know what I got into, and it's become my favorite martial art is actually Krav Maga. I don't know if you've ever
Mm.
trained. Have you?
Yeah, I did, and like I really liked that, but I didn't feel like again that had much carryover to like the ground based grappling.
Well, and
I
yeah,
only trained for like 6 months though.
yeah, it depends how deep you go. You do get into some of it, but it's what do I like about Krav Maga is it's so practical for everyday life
Hmm.
because, you know, there's no referee in
Hmm.
a barroom altercation, and every fight starts on its feet, right? Typically,
Hmm.
so you're not going to like scoot over and grab half guard like in the bar. It's like, hold on, hop on down, come on.
Let me get
So
my
I just
gi on.
yeah, exactly. So I just feel like it's super practical, especially we would train with like weapons, knives, guns, bats, what to do in these situations, someone's coming to choke you from behind. So like I think that is, in my opinion, especially for women, I think the most important or one of the most important, martial arts to practice.
I liked it. In ours, we did a lot of like called it stress inoculation drills at the end. So like you would like do a bunch of burpees, spin around, close your eyes, and then people
Hmm.
with pads would just hit you. And your
Yeah,
job was just like not give up the back, not bend over, and
yeah.
like put yourself in like a situation where your adrenaline's already going. Cause that's something we just don't experience outside of those like those real intense situations. And hopefully, you never actually have to go through that, but it'd be better to be prepared if you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, going back to kind of the biohacking company, one thing I wanted to ask you about with like the morning and evening routines of some of these 1% high performers, how were you like what were you doing? Because I know that's obviously variable for everybody, but what were some commonalities between most people that they were either missing or that you would install for them? And then how did you keep them accountable to doing those things? Or were they just such high performers, you just give them a list and they just would do it no matter what?
Yeah, so one of the common things that I noticed with a lot of these high performers was they didn't have sleep protocols dialed in. They just kind of winged it. And what we would come in is really put an SOP around it, right? A standard operating procedure. This is how you wind down. Almost like the 3-2-1 approach. You don't eat 3 hours before bed. You don't drink 2 hours before bed, and then you don't watch anything, or listen to anything 1 hour before bed. And it's like you have a lot. There's a lot in the sleep game, from chili pad cooled mattresses to grounding sheets to blue light blocking glasses to PEMF mats and all sorts of stuff that you could implement. What I think too is a lot of them didn't have their EMF blocking protocols dialed in either. So electromagnetic
Hmm.
frequencies that all of us are just taking to the face daily and all over from our phones and computers and our Wi-Fi routers and pretty much everywhere. Um, if you don't mitigate your exposure, it does have an effect ultimately on your cellular DNA. It breaks it at the most micro level, but also it affects your sleep. So
Hmm.
that was a thing that we definitely came in for the majority of those high performing clients and altered.
Okay. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with like blue light and like, make sure you don't have that in your eyes before you get to bed. But what are some of the things that people should be looking at with the EMF, like putting their phone in another room? What else?
Yeah, I mean, airplane mode should just be a common occurrence if you're not like using your phone
Mm.
or if it's on your body. Typically, that's something that's really helpful. They also have there's a lot of like pendants. This is like an orgonite one. Who knows how much it really works? But I would also say my buddy has a company called Test My Home, Ryan Blazer, and you want to look at your actual wiring in your home. There's a lot of bad electrical circuits that affect your body and your my one friend had two dogs die and they realized it was bad wiring in his home, that the dogs were laying on this electrical that was just frying them from the floor up. So there's a lot of stuff like that, and mold and chemicals in our water, fluoride, pharmaceutical drugs in our water sources. Like there's so much, man, once you go down the rabbit hole of optimization. But I do think mitigating your EMF exposure should be a part of the conversation and high up there at that.
Got it. I'm gonna have to have Ryan on the podcast because I'm uneducated in that
Do you know
arena.
Ryan?
No,
Oh, I'll connect you.
I'd like to.
He's the man. He's a part of our Happy
All right.
Hustle Club, but he'll be coming to this Greenfield Mastermind actually, and so I can talk to him about it. But and one other thing too, I do want to mention, a lot of these wearable devices, like an Aura Ring, for example. Do you have one? Yeah. So no, it's not that they're good or bad per se. It's just what I saw is a lot of the highest performing people, they would have these wearables, these trackers. They had a lot of data points, but you know, one guy specifically sticks out. He had an Aura Ring, and he got like a 71 sleep score. And we had a morning call. He was like, "Oh man, I got a 71 sleep score. I'm gonna have a shitty day today." And I was like,
Mm,
boom, that was a light bulb. I was like, now you are going to have a shitty day because your perception oftentimes dictates your reality. And so this wearable device, yes, it's a good data point, but it doesn't dictate your day's success, right? Because you've had a great day tired, let's be honest, especially as a father,
true.
So I just think a lot of people get caught up with these wearables. I personally don't subscribe to wearables. Very rarely, would I, maybe if I'm in the backcountry wilderness, have like a Garmin watch just for tracking steps and geolocation. It also has an SOS feature, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, man, I just think that was something as a mistake. I saw a lot of high performers, they get caught up in the data points, and then they would also psych themselves out of a potentially productive day based on it.
100%. I see that
Yeah.
all the time with people. They're looking at their things first thing in the morning to like let them know how they're feeling. So I won't look at mine until the afternoon.
Nice.
That way I don't freak myself out if I got like a poor night of sleep and like, oh no,
Yeah.
everything's ruined. Now that's why I'm so tired. That's why I am the way I am.
Right. So, and you did mention like commitment and discipline. So I'll speak to that. One of the things we do, and I have done, I still do to this day, is I believe consequences create commitment. And so I set consequences in pretty much every aspect of my life. And if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, then I owe the consequence. And I damn well better, pay up. Be it financial or whatever physical. So one of the things we would do is have these individuals who are quite well off, but still no one likes losing money. They would write a large check to typically the opposite political party that they support, and if they
I did
didn't
that
do
in
what they said,
Seattle. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, dude, it works like a charm. And yeah,
That's
if
the,
you and we would
it
hold their
sucks
check.
so bad.
Yeah,
Write that check.
yeah, we would hold their check until they accomplish the results. And so that was one, and I do think setting smart goals has got to be a part of
Mm.
the picture too, because specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I'm sure a lot of people know the acronym, but you got to have those components to your goal in order to really know if you've achieved it or not.
I love that, like that consequence though. I would do that for my clients in Seattle, which is typically more liberal. I'd have
Yeah.
them write their checks to like the Build a Wall Foundation or whatever.
Nice. Yeah, it
And
works.
nobody liked that. It was all fun and games until I was like, well, you didn't do what you said you're going to do. And then, well,
Yeah, there you go.
looks like it's the results of your own actions.
There it
Yeah.
is.
One of our core values in the Million Dollar Body Program is be inevitable. Do do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And I think if people just followed that philosophy, I think just the world would be in such a better place.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, because I know that high performers in a lot of ways are great, especially like in one aspect. They're really dialed in. But a lot of times, I think that when we don't follow through and fulfill those commitments, we stop taking our own commitments seriously, and we start like being like, "Oh, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to drop 30 pounds," and like our subconscious is like, "Hell, you will." Like it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
doesn't. We don't believe ourselves anymore because we look back at our body of work and it's like, "Oh, a bunch of lies." So I think that having that like the not like the actual external consequence as well can be a great motivator, especially if you're someone who hates to lose.
Hmm. Yeah, I think again, consequences create commitment. At least for me, they've been very effective. And you know, I think everyone out there, if you really want to achieve something, you should have a consequence around it. And not like in the macro. Oftentimes, the micro helps. Like, okay, you want to write a book? Well, you should be, writing 2 pages every single morning from the hours of 7 to 8 in the morning. And if you don't do that micro task, then you should have a consequence, right? It's not like, oh, if I don't accomplish the book by, 2025, and then you wait to punish yourself. It's no, you should punish yourself along the journey so you can make course corrections.
I'm entitled to this episode, Punish Yourself for Success.
Yeah, there you go.
Dude, Cary, this has been a lot of fun. I feel like we actually kind of like went in some interesting directions as well. But you mentioned earlier that you have like 10 core values, or I don't remember what you called them, as part of the Happy Hustler like culture. Would you
Alignments.
mind
Yep.
sharing what those are?
Yeah, for sure, man. So we have 10. I know some people have 5, some people have 20. I believe 10 is uh, the max that people can remember, and then also the minimum that life requires in order to really encapsulate all the different aspects. So it makes up an acronym, soul mapping. Your soul's map to the blissfully balanced promised land is what we like to say. Um, Soul mapping stands for S, selfless service. Are you giving to others? We have an acronym within an acronym. I know it's super meta, but gift, give, insight, finances, and time, right? For selfless service. And we track ourselves 1 to 5. 5 is like an A, you're crushing it in each of these areas, or 1 is like you're failing. It's like an F, and subsequently 2, 3, 4, you can figure it out. But that is how we actually track our blissful balance in real time. So we actually have an assessment we take. I take it every Sunday night. I take my own medicine, and then I prioritize change accordingly based on where I'm lacking. So S stands for selfless service. O stands for optimized health, right? U stands for unplugged digitally, because I do think now more and more as we're so connected to our devices, and as Neuralink, and we actually integrate them into our brain and being, we need to disconnect and get away to nature, right? So that's a part of it, right? Then L, loving relationships. What's it all for if you don't have love in your life? So that's the soul part, right? And then the mapping part is M, mindful spirituality. So just connecting to a higher power, really. I don't care one religion or another. I just think it's important to have faith in something bigger than yourself. A is abundance financially. Do you have a system to save, spend, and invest wisely, right? And most people think that's the most important one, but really isn't, because you and I, again, know lots of people with money who's very unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Then P stands for personal development. So, I believe you're either growing and evolving, or you're shrinking and dissolving, right? So those are your 2 choices every day. Passionate hobbies is the second P, getting out and doing fun things for yourself. And, I do think this is one that a lot of high performers like actually struggle with, because, they're giving so much to everyone else around them, but they just forget to do fun things for themselves. And then
Or
I,
feel guilty
impactful
when they
work.
do something that's not
Oh,
work. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, dude. You nailed it. Guilty. That's why I talk about guilt-free downtime. Actually, did an episode on it on our show. But I stands for impactful work. And, impactful work, again, cliche buzzwords, but I use them because they hit home for a lot of people. Passion is that like inward calling on your heartstrings, and then purpose is like that outward serving mission, and then to ultimately make a positive impact. Those are, what I deem as impactful work. And then N stands for nature connection. So, getting out, enjoying, this beautiful planet, and by the way, protecting it, right? Being a part of the solution, being a conscious consumer, voting with your dollar, supporting sustainable companies, etc. So those are the 10 different alignments of being a happy hustler. And again, like I said, we track ourselves in each of these different areas. And so over time, you can see where you're at. And if anyone wants to just, take the free assessment, you can go to thehappyhustle.com, and it's on there, the assessment. And, I just like to, again, do this regularly so I can make course corrections, throughout my journey.
Cool. And if you want to know more about any of those 10 alignments, check out the book.
Yeah.
We'll have that link in the show notes as well. But man, Cary, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thanks for dropping so much wisdom on us. I feel like there's a lot of great nuggets in here to take away. And, because like you said, like you're constantly either evolving or dissolving. So like, what is that choice going to be? And how are you going to be able to take some of the information that you got from today's podcast and start implementing that right away?
Yeah, brother.
But
Thank you
man,
so
thanks
much for
again.
having me,
Anything you want
man.
to drop on us before we go?
Well, I would just say if anyone does feel called to get the book, I don't know when this episode's dropping, but right now we do have the pre-order for the version 2.0, which is entirely enhanced and radically revised, as we say. But this is about a 70% rewrite. Like we did a full, autopsy on this book, and it's so much better. I'm much more proud of it. We paid a prominent publishing company, and yeah, people want to get it. This is everything we talked about in the 10 alignments and ways to implement it and actually improve your score in each, as well as we have a blissful balancer. It's like this whiteboard fridge magnet. I'll send you one. I'm sorry for that we haven't already, but it goes on your refrigerator, and then it's a way to track yourself in these 10 different areas of life every single day. So that parlays with the book. You can get those at the happyhustlebook.com. And yeah, right now we have over $350 in pre-order bonuses going out. So that's the shameless plug that I would drop.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with us.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you. And thanks everyone for watching.